going to have you turn in your Bibles to the Gospel of John. We're in chapter 3, one of the great chapters in the Bible. A number of years ago, and I've read it a couple of times, a book by John Stott. It's a theological book called The Cross of Christ. And in it, he tells the story of a drama that addresses the victims of evil and injustice and God's response to their pain. Listen, I think a lot of people feel like God's abandoned them, especially when they have moments of injustice happen to them, moments of abuse, moments of difficulty in life, and God doesn't seem to be maybe at that moment saying or doing anything. And so people question, why, if there's such a loving, good God, why does he allow the things that are happening in our world? I know it's a big question and we keep bringing it up, but I think society keeps bringing it up, and I think we need to respond to that. He says in the short drama entitled The Long Silence, the following scene is acted out. It says, at the end of time, billions of people are scattered across a great plain before God's throne. Most shrink back from the bright light before them, but some groups near the front talk heatedly, not with cringing shame, but with belligerence. Can God judge us? How can he know about suffering? Snapped a pert young brunette. She ripped open a sleeve to reveal tattooed numbers from a Nazi concentration camp. We endure terror, beatings, torture, death. Another group, a Negro boy lowered his collar. What about this, he demanded, showing an ugly rope burn, lynched for no crime but being black. In another crowd, a pregnant schoolgirl with sullen eyes. Why should I suffer, she murmured. It wasn't my fault. And far across the plains are hundreds of such groups, each having a complaint against God for the evil and suffering he permitted in this world. How lucky God was to live in heaven, where all was sweetness and light, where there was no weeping, no fear, no hunger, no hatred. What did God know of all that man had been forced to endure in this world? For God led a pretty sheltered life, they said. So each of these groups sent forth their leader, chosen because they suffered the most. A Jewish person, an African, a person from Hiroshima, a horribly deformed, arthritic, thalidomide child. In the center of the plain, they consulted with each other. At last, they were ready to present their case. It was rather clever. Before God could be qualified to be their judge, he must endure what they endured. Their decision as God should be sentenced to life on earth as a man. Let him be born a Jew. Let the legitimacy of his birth be doubted. Give him a work so difficult that even his family will think of him as out of his mind when he tries to do it. Let him be betrayed by his closest friends. Let him face false charges, be tried by a prejudiced jury, and convicted by a cowardly judge. And then let him be tortured. And at last let him see what it means to be terribly alone. Then let him die. Let him die so that there can be no doubt that he died. Let there be a graced host of witnesses to verify it. And as each leader announced his portion of the sentence, loud murmurs of approval go up from the throng of people assembled. And when at the last had finished pronouncing sentence, there was a long silence. No one uttered another word. No one moved, for suddenly all knew that God had already served his sentence. Is that profound? God understands human suffering. He endured it. What we discover in this sentence this little drama did not originate in the mind of the dramatist. The story doesn't even originate with humanity, but it's God's story. As we turn to John 3:16, we find the real motivation for why God died for us.